There is a subtle, often unseen, tension that can grip the heart, a quiet tremor that whispers doubts and fuels an anxious gaze toward the horizon of others' perceptions. It is the primal human yearning for belonging, twisted by the fear of exclusion, manifesting as a pervasive worry about what others might think. We navigate our days, often unconsciously, weighing our words, our actions, our very essence against an invisible jury, seeking their silent approval. This quest for acceptance, while rooted in a desire for connection, can become a gilded cage, dimming the inner light and stifling the authentic expression of our souls. It's a delicate dance, this balancing of self and society, but when the scales tip too heavily towards the external gaze, we risk losing sight of the truest reflection, the one found not in the mirror of public opinion, but in the quiet sanctuary of our own being, illuminated by a higher purpose. This internal struggle, this battle against the insidious whispers of inadequacy and the phantom specter of judgment, is a profound spiritual challenge, one that has echoed through the ages and continues to shape our inner landscape. Imagine, for a moment, standing before a vast audience, their faces a sea of expectant eyes. The air crackles with anticipation, but within you, a different kind of energy stirs, a trepidation that threatens to paralyze. This is not the healthy respect for a gathered community, but a deep-seated dread of their collective assessment, a fear that your offering, your very self, will fall short. It's a feeling so potent it can distort reality, making the imagined disapproval of strangers more formidable than any tangible threat. This invisible weight can press down, creating a subtle, almost imperceptible, shift in our posture, a careful curation of our words, a hesitant step where a bold stride might otherwise have been. We might find ourselves altering our attire, softening our opinions, or even muting our passions, all in a desperate, unacknowledged attempt to win favor, to avoid the sting of criticism, to simply be accepted. This pervasive anxiety, this social conditioning that equates external validation with intrinsic worth, can be a silent thief of joy and a formidable barrier to authentic living. It's a cage built not of iron bars, but of carefully constructed expectations, where the key to freedom lies not in finding the lock, but in realizing the cage itself is an illusion, albeit a powerful one that demands our mindful attention. The subtle art of living under the scrutiny of others, the constant, almost subconscious, calibration of our being to meet perceived external standards, is a surprisingly prevalent human condition. It's a quiet negotiation that happens within the chambers of our own minds, a perpetual internal dialogue that asks, is this acceptable? Will they approve? What will they think? This relentless questioning can divert our energy, cloud our judgment, and, most significantly, disconnect us from the deeper currents of our own soul. We become so adept at anticipating the reactions of others that we begin to anticipate our own, stifling spontaneous joy and genuine expression in favor of a pre-approved, socially palatable persona. This can lead to a profound sense of inner disconnect, a feeling that the self we present to the world is somehow separate from the self we experience internally. It's a subtle form of spiritual fatigue, born from the constant effort of maintaining a facade, of trying to be all things to all people, or at least, to the people whose opinions we most fear. The spiritual journey, in many ways, is a process of unlearning these external dependencies, of reclaiming our inherent worth, and of discovering that true freedom lies not in appeasing the crowd, but in aligning ourselves with our deepest truths. This inner landscape, often fraught with the anxieties of social perception, is also the very ground upon which our spiritual growth can flourish. The struggle to be seen and accepted is a universal human experience, a thread woven into the fabric of our shared existence. Yet, within this very struggle lies the potential for profound transformation. By acknowledging the subtle ways in which the fear of judgment influences our choices and shapes our interactions, we begin to dismantle the invisible walls that confine us. This is not about rejecting human connection or the natural desire for community, rather, it is about reorienting our focus, shifting our anchor from the shifting sands of public opinion to the bedrock of our own inner truth, illuminated by a divine presence. The journey inward, to understand the roots of this anxiety and to cultivate a resilient sense of self, is a sacred undertaking, one that promises not only liberation from the fear of rejection but also a deeper, more authentic connection with ourselves and the world around us. It is a path that invites us to look beyond the fleeting glances of others and to embrace the enduring light that resides within. The profound realization that our identity is not a fragile construct built upon the shifting sands of external approval, but a deeply rooted truth anchored in something far greater, is a cornerstone of spiritual liberation. It is a truth that, once grasped, can begin to unravel the tightly wound cords of social anxiety. The voices of the world, with their myriad opinions and judgments, can indeed be loud, their echoes persistent, but they are ultimately transient. They are like clouds passing across the sun, they can obscure the light for a time, but they cannot extinguish its source. The true measure of our worth is not found in the applause or censure of the multitude, but in the quiet, unwavering affirmation of a divine love that sees us, knows us, and cherishes us in our entirety. This internal shift, this re-anchoring of our sense of self, is a powerful act of spiritual reclamation. It is the process of turning inward, of listening to the gentle wisdom of our soul, and of recognizing that our deepest identity is not defined by what others think, but by the immutable truth of our divine connection. This journey towards freedom from the fear of what others think is not merely an intellectual exercise, it is a lived experience, a conscious choice made moment by moment. It begins with a gentle invitation to pause, to breathe, and to acknowledge the presence of the divine within and around us. As we cultivate this inner awareness, we can start to discern the subtle whispers of anxiety that arise from the fear of judgment and gently redirect our attention towards the steady, unwavering voice of our soul. This practice of mindful attention allows us to observe our thoughts and feelings without being consumed by them, creating space for a more conscious response. By choosing to anchor ourselves in the truth of our divine worth, we can begin to dismantle the patterns of comparison and self-doubt that so often fuel social anxiety. This is a path of gentle persistence, of choosing courage over comfort, and of trusting that in aligning ourselves with our deepest truth, we are already, and always, enough. The subtle art of navigating the currents of public opinion without being swept away by them requires a profound recalibration of our internal compass. It's about cultivating a resilience that doesn't negate the value of human connection but rather refines our understanding of where true belonging originates. Consider, for instance, the spiritual discipline of mindful detachment from outcomes. This isn't about indifference, but about recognizing that while we can influence our actions and intentions, the reception of those actions by others lies beyond our direct control. When we perform an act of kindness, offer a heartfelt opinion, or share a piece of our creative work, the subsequent reactions, be they praise, indifference, or critique, are not a direct referendum on our inherent worth. They are, instead, a reflection of the other person's own experiences, biases, and current state of being. Consequently, the spiritual practitioner learns to release the outcome, focusing instead on the purity of the intention and the integrity of the act itself. This release is a powerful antidote to the anxieties of social judgment, as it shifts the locus of validation from the external world back into the sacred space of one's own conscience and connection to the divine. Furthermore, embracing a practice of intentional vulnerability can be instrumental in dismantling the fear of rejection. This involves consciously choosing to share aspects of our authentic selves, not in a bid for approval, but as an offering of genuine connection. It's about sharing our struggles, our learning curves, and our imperfect humanity, not as a plea for pity or validation, but as an acknowledgement that our shared human experience is one of continuous growth and evolution. When we approach vulnerability with this mindset, the potential for negative feedback loses its sting. Instead, it becomes an opportunity for deeper self-understanding and for fostering more authentic relationships. Conversely, attempting to shield ourselves from any perceived imperfection, in a bid to maintain a flawless public image, only exacerbates the anxiety. It creates a chasm between our inner reality and our outward presentation, a disconnect that the soul inherently resists. Therefore, the spiritual path encourages us to show up as we are, trusting that this authentic self-disclosure will attract the connections that are truly meant for us, rather than alienating them. Another crucial layer in transcending the fear of what others think involves the practice of sacred self-inquiry. This is a process of deeply questioning the origins of our need for external validation. When a fear of judgment arises, rather than automatically accepting it as a factual representation of reality, we can gently probe its roots. Ask yourself, where does this fear truly come from? Is it based on past experiences, societal conditioning, or a core belief about my inadequacy? Often, we discover that these fears are not inherent truths but learned responses, echoes of past hurts or internalized criticisms. Consequently, by tracing these fears back to their source, we can begin to disentangle ourselves from their power. This self-inquiry isn't about self-recrimination, it's about compassionate exploration, an act of loving kindness directed towards the parts of ourselves that feel vulnerable. It's akin to a gardener tending to a neglected plant, gently uncovering the soil to understand why it isn't thriving, and then providing the right conditions for growth. Through this process, we can begin to replace limiting beliefs with empowering truths, fostering a more robust and self-assured inner foundation. Moreover, cultivating a practice of gratitude for feedback can radically transform our relationship with criticism. Instead of bracing for negative reactions, we can learn to view all feedback, positive or negative, as a potential gift, an opportunity for growth. Consider the perspective that even harsh critique, when filtered through a lens of spiritual discernment, can offer valuable insights into blind spots we might otherwise miss. This doesn't mean accepting every criticism at face value, rather, it involves developing the wisdom to discern what is constructive and what is merely projection. Consequently, when faced with a critical comment, we can pause and ask, is there any truth here that can help me evolve? This approach transforms the sting of judgment into a catalyst for self-improvement. It requires a mature spiritual stance, one that recognizes that true progress often comes from confronting our limitations and learning from our interactions, rather than seeking constant affirmation. Finally, a profound aspect of this journey is the development of inner certainty grounded in spiritual connection. This refers to an unwavering conviction in one's own inherent goodness and purpose, a knowing that transcends external circumstances. It's the quiet confidence that arises from a deep communion with the divine, a sense that one is guided, supported, and loved unconditionally. When this inner certainty is cultivated, the opinions of others, however varied, begin to lose their power to shake our core. We become like a mighty oak, its roots deeply embedded in the earth, weathering the storms with steadfast resilience. Building on this, however, the challenge lies in actively nurturing this inner certainty through consistent spiritual practices, meditation, prayer, contemplative reading, or spending time in nature. These activities serve to reinforce our connection to that which is eternal, providing a stable anchor against the ephemeral tides of social perception. Therefore, by consistently tending to this inner wellspring of confidence and certainty, we gradually reorient our focus from the external gaze to the internal truth, paving the way for a life lived with greater freedom and authentic expression. Reflecting on this intricate tapestry of inner exploration, we arrive at a pivotal juncture. The subtle currents of our shared human experience, so often navigated by the compass of external validation, have been gently guided towards a deeper, more resonant source of truth. As we stand on the precipice of this final contemplation, it becomes evident that the myriad threads we've encountered, the persistent whispers of doubt, the subtle architecture of our perceived selves, the very energy that animates our choices, all converge towards a singular, illuminating understanding. It's as if the scattered fragments of a mosaic, once viewed in isolation, now begin to coalesce, revealing a unified, coherent image that speaks of inherent worth and authentic presence. The journey thus far has been one of uncovering layers, not to discard them, but to see them in their true context, recognizing how they shape our outward expression and our inner landscape alike. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, not as a destination to be reached, but as a way of being to be embodied. The constant striving to shape ourselves according to the perceived expectations of others can be likened to attempting to sculpt water. The form is fleeting, the effort ultimately unfulfilling. Instead, we are invited to recognize the inherent, unchangeable essence that lies beneath the surface, a core of being that is not diminished by external storms nor enhanced by fleeting applause. This profound recognition shifts the very paradigm of our engagement with the world, moving from a posture of anxious appeasement to one of grounded authenticity. It's a transition from reacting to external stimuli to responding from an inner wellspring of quiet confidence and unwavering purpose. The cumulative effect of this inner work is akin to finding a true north, a stable point of reference that allows us to navigate life's complexities with greater clarity and grace. As we pivot towards this final reflection, consider how the energetic currents we've touched upon, the subtle yet powerful forces that shape our awareness, begin to harmonize. The practice of conscious presence, once a gentle invitation, now reveals itself as a potent anchor, grounding us amidst the often turbulent seas of perception. It's in these moments of stillness, when the external clamor begins to recede, that we can truly hear the authentic voice of our soul, a voice that offers not judgment, but quiet affirmation. This internal shift, this reorientation of focus, is not a passive happening but an active cultivation, a daily recommitment to the truth of our being. The implications of this inner realignment are far-reaching, influencing not only our personal well-being but also the quality of our interactions and the depth of our contributions to the world. It's a subtle yet profound transformation, like a seed that, once planted in fertile ground, begins to unfurl its leaves towards the sun, reaching for its full potential. The essence of this unfolding understanding lies in recognizing that the pursuit of external approval, while a deeply ingrained human tendency, is ultimately a diversion from our true spiritual purpose. It's like mistaking the reflection in a pond for the vast, life-giving ocean itself. The journey we have undertaken, though personal, resonates with a universal longing for unburdened existence, for the freedom to simply be. As we prepare to embrace the final illumination, let us carry forward the awareness that the most profound acceptance we can ever receive, and the most enduring source of peace, resides not in the eyes of the world, but within the sacred sanctuary of our own awakened heart, connected to the boundless love that sustains all. This convergence of insights prepares the ground for a final, potent affirmation, a blessing that anchors these truths within the very fabric of our being, empowering us to walk forward with newfound freedom and unwavering light. The culmination of our shared exploration invites us into a space of profound, embodied freedom. We've journeyed through the subtle landscape of human anxiety, the quiet yearning for acceptance, and the often unseen ways in which the fear of judgment can shape our every step. It is here, at the threshold of this realization, that we understand the profound truth: our intrinsic worth is not a commodity to be earned or a reflection to be curated for external approval. It is, rather, an inherent radiance, a divine spark that exists independently of opinion, critique, or admiration. The anxieties we've felt, the careful calibration of our words and actions, are but shadows cast by a perceived need to conform to an external gaze. Yet, as we deepen our awareness, we see that these shadows have no power of their own. Their influence wanes when we turn our attention inward, towards the unwavering light of our own soul. This understanding is not a mere intellectual assent, it is an invitation to a lived reality, a gentle yet powerful reorientation of our being. When we anchor ourselves in the truth of our inherent value, the clamor of the external world begins to fade into a softer hum. The urgent need to please, to impress, or to avoid disapproval dissolves, replaced by a quiet confidence that emanates from within. This is the essence of spiritual liberation, the freedom to express our authentic selves, not in defiance of others, but in alignment with our deepest truth. It is about understanding that our connection to the divine is the ultimate source of validation, a wellspring of love and acceptance that can never be depleted by the transient opinions of others. This is not an end point, but a beginning, a continuous unfolding of self-awareness and a deepening trust in the unfolding of life. The true practice, then, begins now, in the quiet moments of our day, in the choices we make, in the way we hold ourselves and interact with the world. It is in choosing to breathe into the present moment, to acknowledge the whispers of fear without letting them dictate our path, and to consciously redirect our focus towards the enduring truth of our soul. This is the art of living authentically, of walking with a steady gait, knowing that our deepest belonging is not found in the crowd, but within the sacred space of our own being, illuminated by an eternal love. It is a journey of shedding the illusions that bind us, of embracing our inherent radiance, and of living with a quiet, unwavering certainty that we are, and always have been, enough. This is the freedom that awaits, a profound peace that arises when we finally allow ourselves to be seen, not as others perceive us, but as we truly are, divine beings, radiating our unique light.